والصلاة والسلام على سيد المرسلين نبينا محمد وآله وصحبه أجمعين. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما وعملا بفضلك يا أرحم الراحمين آمين. I'm going to change the order of the question a little. I'm going to start off with the first one in regards to reading the Quran without understanding, because I don't have khatir already. And I think the questioner, the reason why the question is asked, because apparently there are some TV programs and people are saying that, khatam of the Quran is not important. Khatam of the Quran is only for those who know the meaning, etc., etc. And so let's start with this, inshallah. First of all, the question is, can someone read the Quran and they don't understand? Absolutely. This is the practice of all the Muslims around the world. Are we expecting the Muslims in Indonesia, Malaysia, Pakistan, Bangladesh, and many African countries that they understand the Quran? So we're basically saying that these people, they shouldn't do Khatam of the Quran. That's what we're saying. We're actually telling them that don't read the Quran, learn Arabic language first, only do that. I mean, this is, I don't understand why people, they keep on insisting that you have to understand the Quran to read. When you realize that the Quranic language, even if you speak to the Arab brothers, they will tell you, the language of the Quran is not the language that people, they speak to one another these days. The language of the Quran is very, very hard, the language. It's afsah. It's the most eloquent language that companions, they asked the Prophet ﷺ because of certain meaning they didn't understand. We are talking about companions who lived at the time of revelation, who spoke the best Arabic language. Even they had to clarify to the Prophet ﷺ, what does this word mean? What does this vocabulary mean? What does this sentence mean, like that? So we are expecting people of the 21st century for the Arabic language to reach the level of the companions. It's not going to happen, that's for sure. So one thing that I would like to clarify is that the Prophet ﷺ, when he was sent to the dunya, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala explained his mission. He said, يَتْلُ عَلَيْهِمْ آيَاتِهِ وَيُعَلِّمُهُمُ الْكِتَابَ وَالْحِكْمَةَ وَيُزَكِّيهِمْ لَقَدْ مَنَّ اللَّهُ عَلَى الْمُؤْمِنِينَ إِذْ بَعَثَ فِيهِمْ رَسُولًا مِنْهُمْ يَتْلُ عَلَيْهِمْ آيَاتِهِ. The first thing Allah mentions is يَتْلُ عَلَيْهِمْ آيَاتِهِ. Then Allah mentioned وَيُعَلِّمُهُمُ الْكِتَابَ. So two things here. The job of the Prophet is to do tilawah of the Quran, and the job of the Prophet is to teach them the Quran. So that means both of them got two different meanings. One is tilawah, one is ta'lim. One is recitation of the Quran, and the other one is teaching them the meaning of the Quran. They're two different things. The Prophet ﷺ's job is two. One is tilawah. So tilawah with understanding is so much rewarding. Tilawah without understanding, you are reciting the speech of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Why would you not be rewarded for that? And it's very important for our spiritual development as well when we read the Quran. Not everyone is to understand the Arabic language 100% to understand what Allah is saying. So many times when a reciter recites, you are overwhelmed by suddenly, the word Jannah is mentioned, the Jahannam is mentioned. Straight away you feel something that you've never ever felt before. It's the kalam of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So definitely we should do khatam of the Quran, inshallah ta'ala. We should try our very best to do khatam of the Quran. But only one thing that I would like to add, those who do the khatam of the Quran, make sure that you recite good. Make sure that you pronounce the letters properly. Remember, khatam of the Quran is not the maqsid, it's not the purpose. Reciting the Quran, articulating every letter correctly, this is the purpose. We're not going to be questioned on the day of Qiyamah how many khatam we've done. But we will be questioned if we recite the Quran incorrectly. So if you recite the Quran incorrectly and we didn't even make an effort to learn tajweed, or try to actually get our Surah Al-Fatiha correct, or the surah that we're going to recite in Salah correct, we will be questioned about that, definitely. But there will be no question how many khatam of the Quran you have done, or how much you have memorized. These are all good things to do, inshallah ta'ala. So we should learn how to recite the Quran correctly, inshallah ta'ala. And when we look at our pious predecessors, especially in the month of Ramadan, subhanallah, some hadith experts, in the month of Ramadan, they would stop teaching hadith. The month of Ramadan comes only focus on the recitation of the Quran. For example, Qatada ibn al-Di'am, a very knowledgeable hadith master he was. And he has so many thousands of students. In the month of Ramadan, he will advise students, this month of Ramadan, we're going to only focus on Quran. So read the Quran, recite the Quran, etc. Then you have Ibrahim al-Nakhai from the Kufa, again another hadith master. He says, Shahru Ramadan, Shahrul Quran. So So he used to tell everyone that this month of Ramadan, leave me alone, I'm going to just read the Quran. So our scholars have done that. Imam Abu Hanifa rahmatullahi alayhi, outside of Salah, in his free time, in the month of Ramadan, on Eid day, he told his students, Alhamdulillah, I've done khatam of 60 Quran. I just think with the calculator and think, wow, how do you do that? 60 khatam of the Quran outside of Salah. In Salah, he done one khatam with the congregation. Imam Abu Hanifa, we have 3 imams, right? Abu Hanifa himself, he done one khatam of the Quran with the congregation. Imam al-Shafi'i rahmatullah alayhi, as mentioned by many of the Shafi'i students of Imam Shafi'i, that Imam Shafi'i also done 60 khatam of the Quran in the month of Ramadan. So there's something about this pious predecessors. Because Ramadan, you see, is different than any other month. And any other month, you should not finish the Quran in 3 days and 4 nights. I probably will not give advice. Any other months, like any other months, minimum he gave is 1 week. You shouldn't finish the khatam of the Quran in 3 nights or 4 nights or 5 nights because it will be too fast, you see. And plus, this will have an effect in your day-to-day life. The Prophet ﷺ is a prophet of Allah, but he's a thinker, and he used to give commandments according to how we're going to live a life. So we are not violating any of the rights. If a man, he loves Quran, and there's some companions, that's what they eat, they just love reading Quran, etc. But if they are so much into recitation of the Quran, they will violate the rights of their wives and the children, etc. So he said, you know what? Minimum, some of them were very good reciters. You see one thing about the companion, they should recite the whole Quran like you would recite Surah Al-Fatiha. So if you recite Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, you know the next verse, so it's very fast for them. They don't even think about it. We have to prepare. Our Hafiz Sahib, Allah give them barakah in their time. I know because I'm always dealing with them. When I sit down with them for iftar, there's food in front of them, but they can't eat. Because they will choose what to eat because I gotta recite the Quran. I don't want my wudu to affect. After my voice has to be controlled. So much they have to go through. We have so much food here, they're not even eating. This 1 hour Qarizate, for example, it only has fruits. And just a little bit of food so that he could just pray Salah. Shaykh Hafizur Rahman, for example, just tea and fruits, nothing. After Tarawih he goes, then I eat. I mean, it's not easy, these guys. And there are many, because they have wudu and all that. And then preparation throughout the whole day. The Hafiz Amir, for example, he's working 9 till 5, full time in the pharmacy. And then after that, he only gets 2 hours to prepare so that he could read Salah. It's so difficult. If you don't prepare, you'll make mistakes. We know that. That's going to happen. Because Quran is like that. أَشَدُّ تَفَلُّتًا مِنَ الْإِبِلِ The Prophet ﷺ said, the Quran will run away from you if you don't revise it more faster than the camel runs away from you. The Prophet, I'll give an example. Okay, you have to keep them in control. Like you have to tie the camel, otherwise it's going to run from you. Similarly, the Quran, you have to revise it again and again. So there's a lot of preparation for these guys. A huge preparation. And if you don't do that, then it's gonna go. Not the companion, not our A'immatul Arba'ah. They knew the Quran inside out because every masail of Shari'iyah first they should go to the Quran. And then they will take it from the hadith. Imam al-Shafi'i rahmatullah alayhi, one day he went to the house, mentioned in the narration, and all night, in the morning he didn't do wudu. So someone asked him that, Shaykh, he didn't do wudu for Salatul Fajr. And he was sleeping, what's going on? He said, I didn't sleep. I was thinking about a verse of the Quran. One verse of the Quran didn't make him sleep. He was always thinking about it. I was just thinking and thinking and thinking like that. So there are so many people like this, our Imams. They knew the Quran very well. That's why they used to finish. But in the month of Ramadan is different though. In the month of Ramadan is a very limited time. This time, Allah knows if it's going to come back to our life again. I mean, how many of us could guarantee I will get another Ramadan next year? I don't. No. That's how the Sahaba, the Tabi'in, they used to behave. So in the month of Ramadan, it's basically the month of Nuzul of the Quran, and that's why they should recite a lot of the Quran. So to answer the question once again, yes, you're allowed to recite the Quran with understanding. Obviously, there's so much rewarding. With tadabbur, there's so much rewarding. But if you think that I'm going to learn the language first and understand the meaning first, then I'm going to recite the Quran, that's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. It's going to take a lot of time, and a lot of the khair and barakah will disappear from you, see. That's the reason why I will say to everyone that make sure that you carry on, inshallah, to recite the Quran. Even if you don't understand it, you will be rewarded. You will be rewarded. And I would like to also quote this hadith as well. The Prophet ﷺ said that, alif lam mim. If someone recites alif lam mim, they get reward. Every letter you recite, you get reward. Then the Prophet of Allah said, لا أقول ألف حرف ولا لا أقول ألف لام ميم حرف. I don't say alif, lam, mim is a harf. Alif is a harf, lam is a harf, mim is a harf. But alif and lam and mim with its own gives no meaning. And you're getting reward for it as well. That's the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So his hadith is telling us that whether we understand it or we don't understand it, reading the Quran is virtuous and definitely will make us get us closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Carry on reciting inshallah, but also have this intention that yes, I will try my very best to learn the ma'ani and the meaning as well. Nowadays we have, alhamdulillah, so many translations. So do a little bit of both. Do the tilawah of the Quran and pick up a translation and go through the translation as well. And if you have any question, write it down. Yes, it's true. There are a lot of questions in the Quran because Quran, in Surah Al-Baqarah, when I gave my 5-minute summary, I had to do it in 2 days, Surah Al-Baqarah, because there's so many ahkam in Surah Al-Baqarah. We're not going to understand. Who's going to understand, how talaq system works? We have 50 pages in fiqh to understand this. Quran only got one verse, at-talaqu marratan. Because Allah's language is so comprehensive, subhanallah. Yeah, that's the reason why you'll have question, write it down, and you could ask anyone the question, inshallah. So that's answer to the first question, reading the Quran without understanding. Anyone here would like to come in or ask anything? Yes, please, go ahead.
If we are reading Quran, like sit in the masjid, reading the Quran, and the adhan starts, should we give the jawab for the adhan, or we should, or can just carry on reading Quran?
Okay, I'm going to repeat your question for the camera, inshallah. Jazakallah khairan. The camera is facing that way. Or is the phone? The question is, if we are reading the Quran in the masjid and the adhan is called, should we stop reciting the Quran and answer to the adhan? That's the best thing to do. Absolutely. When the adhan is called, we should stop anything and everything as possible. Because the Prophet ﷺ said that إِذَا سَمِعْتُمُ الْأَذَانِ فَقُولُوا. Stop everything else. Respond to that. فَقُولُوا مِثْلَ مَا يَقُولُ الْمُؤَذِّنِ. Then you reply to the muaddin, you reply to the person who's calling the adhan as he called the adhan. So Allahu Akbar, you say Allahu Akbar. So you reply to him. That's what we're supposed to do. But but if someone were to carry on, because he's calling, because the adhan will belong, he said Allahu Akbar and then he carries on, he's replying and he's doing the Quran, it's okay as well. You could do that as well. But the best, the afdal, the most preferred thing, inshallah ta'ala, you take a break from everything and you reply, especially when you're in the masjid. Inshallah, that's the best thing to do. So yes, that's the afdal. Yeah, and I've seen our teachers, some of them in the hadith lesson, during the lesson, and that is called, they will continue teaching. And then when the muaddin will stop, they will reply all of them together and then continue. Because their time is so limited. So you could do that as well. That's the reason I said. But afdal, they even said as well, the afdal will be, because some of the lessons which you have in the masjid, when the adhan is called in the masjid, our teachers will stop and reply. But if it's outside the masjid, because through the adhan is getting to the classroom through the microphone, they will continue teaching and they will reply after that. And our salah time was different than the masjid salah time. So both is fine, but the most preferred and afdal will be stop and reply to the muaddin and then continue with the Quran, inshallah ta'ala. Anyone else have anything regarding this? Yes, go ahead.
So if you're at home and it's iftar and you've got the adhan on the TV, should you wait until the adhan finishes, don't you?
So you see the adhan, we're talking about the live adhan. The adhan in the TV, although it's live, but there is actually a pause of 7-8 seconds. There's no such thing as live. It doesn't work like that because of the whole transmission system. So for example, if you were to hear someone reciting the Quran, I have to say that in the masjid, you have to say that now. If you hear a live on TV, you don't do the sajda, because it's not live. There is actually pause of 7, 8, 10, 12, could be a minute sometime, that depending on the whole transmission. So the reason why people listen to adhan at home is just to find out the time to iftar. And usually people, they listen and they turn it off. Do you understand? So if you are listening to the whole adhan, then yeah, you reply to the adhan, you'll be rewarded for this. Okay, we are talking about live adhan. The TV one is not the live adhan. Sometimes they give an asr adhan and you're listening at Dhuhr time at England. So do you understand? So that's the reason why. If it's the adhan of Salat al-Maghrib and you're at home and listening to Salat al-Maghrib, yeah, you should reply because we'll be rewarded for this, inshallah. Okay? Anyone else have any other question regarding this? Right, we'll move on to the next question. The second question here is that, can a woman do i'tikaf? That's the answer. And can women do i'tikaf? If so, can they do it in the masjid? So I've got two parts. One is to do with Carnival Masjid management, and one is with the Sharia thing. So according to Sharia, yes, obviously the Prophet ﷺ, he done i'tikaf in his masjid, and after the demise of Rasulullah ﷺ, it is mentioned that the Azwaj al-Mutahharat, the Prophet's wives, they done i'tikaf in the masjid. So a designated area was made for them so they could do i'tikaf. So from this we learn that yes, women are allowed, they're allowed to do i'tikaf in the masjid. It is permissible. As I said to you, there's a hadith in Sahih al-Bukhari that the Prophet ﷺ كان يعتكف العشر. The Prophet of Allah in the last 10 days he did i'tikaf. And then Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha, she said, حتى توفاه الله, he should do i'tikaf in the last 10 days, our Prophet ﷺ, consecutively while he was in Medina. Every year he did i'tikaf. حتى توفاه الله, until Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave him wafat, death. So as you remember, when the Prophet of Allah went to Medina, the first year there was no Ramadan. Ramadan became compulsory the following year. That means second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, 9. For 9 years, the Prophet ﷺ did i'tikaf in the masjid. Then she says, ثُمَّ اعْتَكَفَ أَزْوَاجُهُ مِنْ بَعْدِهِ. After the demise of the Prophet ﷺ, the Prophet ﷺ's wives, they do i'tikaf as well. This is what is mentioned. So if someone wants to do i'tikaf, yes, women want to do i'tikaf, they could do it. Now, does the masjid in UK allow it? That's a different. A town hall, for example, women, we don't have facilities for women for i'tikaf. And it's purely for logistical reasons. There's men here and women sleeping as well. Do you understand? So it's quite difficult. And that's the reason why we don't have it here at the moment. I'm not really sure if that has this year, so that's what I will tell you. And I think most of the masajid in UK, they just don't have designated area for women with the separate facilities, and also the security and safety involved in here as well. You see, because that's the reason why. Secondly, you also have to be very careful of the women who wants to do i'tikaf, is that you could be a wife, so you need to get permission from your husband. You could be someone's daughter, so you need to ask your father as well, because they need to be 100% got assurance of your safety and security. So we need to do that as well. And also we need to make sure that none of the other huquq and the rights are violated as well, because it could be children at home. Because once you come in the i'tikaf, you see, you can't get out now. If you do get out of the masjid and your i'tikaf, the reward is gone now. When someone in the i'tikaf, they have to stay in the masjid, they have to enter before Salatul Maghrib on the last 10. So on the 19th night, okay, you're entering the 20th, you have to be in the masjid now. So before Salatul Maghrib, you have to be here. And then you get out when it's announced that the tomorrow will be Eid. So that's the only time. After Salatul Maghrib, you are free. That's how i'tikaf is done, okay? And obviously, this is one of the beautiful meanings of i'tikaf, is that you're throwing yourself at the door of Allah. Allah, I'm at your door now. I'm at your house now. Yeah, and there are a lot of reward for this kind of i'tikaf. But it has to be done properly. People, they do i'tikaf, then they go home, they do i'tikaf, then they go to work. These are all nafal i'tikaf. You'll be rewarded for your intention. But the sunnah mu'akkada i'tikaf is done when you do it properly. That you are in the masjid, and within the vicinity of the masjid, and you do it basically from beginning till end. Some of our Hanafi ulama, they have allowed, the ulama al-Hanafiya, they have allowed for the women to do i'tikaf at home. So don't come to the masjid. They say that وَالْمَرْأَةُ تَعْتَكِفُ فِي قَعْرِ بَيْتِهَا. One of our scholars, his name is Imam Ashurun Bulali. He was from Egypt. He wrote a beautiful book called Nurul Idah. And he said that the fuqaha, the jurists, they say for women, again it's for logistical reasons, but for far better for them to do i'tikaf in their own house, in their own room, the room where they pray. So they choose a room, and they basically will stay in that room, and they do i'tikaf there, all the reciting the Quran, the khatam, everything, all the ibadah there, and she only gets out of that room for the call of nature. That's what she does. So if she can't do that without again violating any huquq or rights, then that is more better, inshallah ta'ala, if any of the sisters want to do i'tikaf. And again, anyone wants to come in here for this question? That's my answer for this. Anyone have anything to say? Okay, I'll move on to my next question then, inshallah ta'ala. The next question is that can a sister give zakat to her brother? She normally helps him because he is poor and he has various health conditions as well. Absolutely. And basically when it comes to zakat, you cannot give it to the usul, the main. Children can give it to their parents. Parents can't give it to the children. Children, they can't give it to their parents. Parents can't give it to the children. But furu' means brothers giving to sisters, sisters giving to brothers is all permissible. In fact, you'll be rewarded even more. One, for helping someone, like the sister said here, she normally helps him as he is very, very poor and has health issues. That's to do with, subhanAllah, you're going to get reward for giving him zakat money. You get reward for maintaining the ties of kinship as well. The reward is double. By the way, as we had in our zakat workshop, Mawlana Shah told us, is that when you give zakat, you don't have to mention that you're giving zakat money. You don't even, so just give money, and inshallah ta'ala say that this is for your, so that you inshallah ta'ala, you sort your health out, or this is for yourself. That's enough. And you're in charge of zakat. The brother doesn't need to know. So this is absolutely fine as well, inshallah. Okay, the next question. To do with mortgage. Okay, so let me read the whole question. It's quite a lengthy question. Is it possible to find out what is recommended in terms of home financing, specifically if you would prefer to get mortgage rather than the rent, so you have an asset to sell in the future? In many cases, there is pressure from the family, parents, to get interest-based mortgage. Are the Islamic alternative mortgage okay? In which case, can you please clarify? Okay. So, look, first of all, ulama, they said, in regard, again, anyone who disagree with me, you're allowed to disagree. Because this is actually was one of those new masail, new issues that I don't think our scholars in the past have to deal with this, i.e. mortgage. So yeah, there are two mortgages we have in UK. We have the Islamic mortgage and we have the conventional mortgage we have. Now, both of them are different because Islamic mortgage claim that they are halal, and they don't have no interest in them. However, those who get Islamic mortgage, they say it is halal, but it's so difficult. It's so expensive, far more expensive than the normal conventional mortgage that we get. So the ulama, this is the group of legendary ulama of UK we're talking about here. Yes, these ulama, they said that in UK, people's circumstances are different. Yes, so you could get you could carry on renting, you could get a house, you could basically get council house and etc. But you know what? People who suffer with council house, the area of their choice, they were constantly moved and rent etc. There's so many times the landlord wants the house back, then they look for another one. So if it's possible for them to get the normal conventional mortgage, they said that for living purposes they're allowed. For purpose of living is allowed, just like car insurance. It's insurance at the end of the day. We should avoid it, but you can't drive a car without insurance. So sometimes because of this kind of necessity, the ulama, the group of ulama, they have said it's allowed. So my answer to this would be that if you are planning to live in that house, it's absolutely fine. And then the first question is that, if I were to, I could rent, but if I get it and I have an asset in the future, again, taking the opinion of the scholars who said that, they said it will be allowed. You don't need to go for the Islamic mortgage. But if you have that ability, remember, you'll be spending far more money if you get the Islamic mortgage. But you're okay with it and you realize, inshallah, I have the capability and ability to pay for it, and you get the Islamic mortgage, inshallah, you'll be rewarded for your sacrifices because it's a huge sacrifices. Yeah? So again, I follow the opinion of those of the scholars who says that for someone to live and they get mortgage from the bank, this allowed. I follow the opinion that it is allowed because of the necessity. Okay? So I hope that answers the question. Anyone would like to?
Is related to zakat, as you answered before. He know that he is receiving the money that
He doesn't need to know.
is it okay fine?
Yes, absolutely. He doesn't need to know because some people get offended by this. So the recipients of zakat are not, they are sahib nisab. They are poor and destitute, and they are one of the recipients of zakat. If they are one of them, you give zakat, they don't need to know this is zakat money. There's no need to mention them. Okay.
One more.
Let's go on.
About if someone, some couple is just newly married, and the gold which they get is not, it's not for older than 1 year.
It's already, yeah. Then you have to include someone not in Nisabiya. They got the gold now, and without the gold, they won't be in the Sahib al Nisab. For them, they have to wait for the whole year.
Okay.
But if you already have to give zakat, you already got the money to give zakat, and now more money comes in or gold comes in, you have to include them before you give the zakat. Yes.
And what about the bank balance? If he has some bank balance?
So the surplus. In the bank balance, you probably have already allocated, you're going to give certain money to people that you owe, bills and etc. You take all of that out, the extra you take into account as well, yes. Brother at the back, you had a question, then I'll come to you. Yes.
Shaykh, though the permissibility of hair removal, is that for someone only in necessity? So if you want to come from a position mentally, for example, and you just want to buy the house
For
standard mortgage.
so the opinion that I follow is the opinion that only for living, okay, not for just buying and selling for for.
Say you're living in the house, you're comfortably renting, so there's no financial issues, but to buy it as an asset for yourself, and you're still going to live in it.
You're gonna live in the house later on. You're saying, yeah.
You're living in the house you're renting at the moment, and you're going to buy that house that you're renting. Can you use the standard mortgage for that, or is it just if you're struggling financially when you get living your brother?
So sorry, one more time. So you got the house already.
So you're living in a house and you're renting it, and you're comfortable. There's no financial issues.
Okay, fine.
For the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Hardships.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah, you're still allowed to buy it because you don't have a house in your name now. You understand? You still don't have, because you know the house that you're renting. How practical point of view. Suddenly the landlord wants a house. Where do you go? So even if it's ulama, they said that they're allowed to get mortgage. That's for the purpose of being safe and secure in the area of your choice. Yes. Sir.
Shaykh, this is like you can't take the mortgage for financial gain or for business loans or that. You can't do that.
You can't do that at the moment, but I'm saying I haven't researched more into it, but the group of scholars will say there are two of them. Some of them say that you could even do that as well in UK. There's another system which I have to follow another time. They say that there's a whole discussion on riba in Darul Harb. So there's another discussion which I have to look into that further. I'm talking about only for people living in the house for the purpose of living. If someone wants to buy for business purposes, etc. Again, there are some scholars, they don't recognize this riba to be that riba which is prohibited in the Quran. I'm not fully inclined towards that opinion here. I'm researching further. For myself, I'm saying. But there are scholars, group of scholars, they allow it. Okay? Brother, you had a question? Sorry.
Assalamu alaikum, Shaykh. My question is in relation to zakat. So, if a person is paying zakat to a particular individual, but the amount of zakat that he intends to give is quite high, is there a maximum limit in Deen that that you will not pay? I mean, is it better to distribute zakat amongst, let's say, 10 families instead of just one family? Or is it more advisable to just pay altogether to one family in a substantial amount that it really helps?
Yeah, I've got a question. So, what the ulama they say in regards to zakat, you should give zakat sufficient amount, but you shouldn't give so much that he himself becomes sahib al-nisab now. You understand? So nowadays, for example, we worked out the other day. It's roughly about £4,000 makes you sahib al-nisab. Let's see. Yeah? So you should be below that amount. You shouldn't give him more than that amount. So best thing to do is if he's so high zakat, like imagine someone has to give £10,000 zakat. Yeah? He shouldn't give that £10,000 to one individual. No. He should basically give it to 3 or 4 if it's possible. That's more better. So it's ideally this is the best way to do it, inshallah. Okay? Someone had a question, yes?
On my saving last year, I paid already zakat, and I just used that money before Ramadan. Should you have to pay zakat on that one?
So, say again, so you had...
I paid zakat last year.
You already paid it last year, yeah?
Last year, yeah. Then that money, I just used it before Ramadan.
So when is your zakat anniversary date? So for example, let's say you usually give...
Ramadan.
Okay, fine. So last Ramadan,
Yeah,
this Ramadan you haven't paid, right?
I haven't paid, but I used that money before Ramadan.
It's gone now.
It's gone now.
Yeah, so you don't count
It's
that.
kind of gone, but it's still in my account, but I have to give it to...
Yeah, so you take that out. You don't count that. If you have to give it to someone you owe or something like that, you only give zakat of the surplus, the amount that you are not going to
But it's
give.
still in my bank account, but I have to give it to...
But that doesn't matter because you will that this is going to be going. You don't need to count it because you owe someone like that. you take care of, or a rent that you have to give, or no, you don't count that, even if it's in your possession. Okay? The next question is really technical. Subhanallah, I can't hold musallis, mashallah. Listen to this question. I'm going to read the whole question out. It's amazing. Assalamu alaikum. It's regarding the distance of a musafir, how to become a traveler. If there is a short route between two cities, which is less than the minimum distance required to be a musafir, but I take the longer route, which is greater than this minimum, due to the reason of there being a lot of traffic in the shorter route. So the longer route is overall quicker, but I'm doing more miles on the shorter route. So do I become a musafir? It's really like, yes, you become a musafir. Actually, you do. So for example, imagine from London, from Cornwall to Luton, let's say it's 40 miles if you take M1. But if you take M25 and all the other routes, etc., it's say 50 miles. So depending on which route you take. If you take the shorter route, because it's less than 48 miles, you are not musafir. If you take the longer route, even if you do it deliberately, because mashaqqa is involved, there's sort of hardship is involved in this. That's what Sharia looks at. But there is some hardship in here, so that's the rukhsah comes in. You will become a musafir. So it's the route that you take. It is true. Yes.
Shaykh, mashallah, what if you say both places is your home?
Yeah.
So you have a home here in Cornwall, and 50 miles away there's another home here
Yeah.
in Control. How does that work? Does that still?
So, in regards in Islamic Sharia, you have to the definition of home is different. Just having a home there doesn't make anything like that. Having a home means you have a family. So you have to. Home in Islamically means that you have a family there, you have children there, and you have intention to live there. So in your case, it's only will be applicable if you have two wives. Just say, it's all hypothetical, everyone, those who are listening, yeah? So in this hypothetical scenario, if someone has a wife there and children there, that means he's got dual, we're going to say he's got dual iqama places. He's not musafir, he's not musafir in both places. He's muqim here, he's muqim here now. So those of us, many of us, we lived in Bangladesh, India, Pakistan. When we go back home now, we are musafir, we are not muqim, because we have no intention of living there anymore. We lived there, but we moved here now. That's why people say, but I'm back home. Yeah, it's not home, you're not planning to live there. That's why you got your return ticket, which you're looking at every single day. So England is our destination now. This is the way we live, so this is our place like that. So that's how it works here. So another thing is, if you go to, so if someone is muqim means like if someone, for example, went to travel to Bangladesh, yeah, or travel to an area, and they will live there for more than 15 days, that's their intention, then they will pray the full Salah. But if they go there and they will pray, basically they will come back within a few days or 1 week, etc., then they are musafir. Yeah, that's all. So his question is basically, he takes the longer route deliberately because it's faster, but also he gets the bonus of being a musafir, so he could pray 2 rakat and he could combine, etc. Yeah, it's allowed, it's not a problem.
Sorry, Sheikh, I just want to say if we are going Luton from here,
Yes.
and do we have to count from the here?
Yes, from here. That's right. From Cornwall all the way till your destination that you reach, yes.
Okay, because somebody told me that when you leave London, then you count from M1, you count.
No. Could be, that's another opinion, but that's not the one that. At the time of the Prophet it was different, you see. At the time of the Prophet their calculation was different. Because there may be a misunderstanding. Basically, you become musafir when you leave your borough. So, the borough that you live in, when you get out of that one, basically imagine let's say you want to combine your prayer. You can't do it in Cornwall, combine and then travel. You have to be out and then you become a traveler. That's the strongest opinion. So you don't count from M1, you count from, for example, we put in the sub now, from like that. And then it'll give you the exact miles and etc. And if you reroute, it'll give you the miles as well, based on that one. For the sake of easiness, it's not from any hadith, for the sake of easiness, the ulama, they said, 48 miles and more makes you musafir. 48 miles, less than 48 miles, you're muqim. Again, this is the ulama's ijtihad. Someone say, I believe in 55 miles, I believe less than that. That's up to you. But this is how the ulama, they have calculated to make life easier for us.
So one other thing I'd like to share, last time I went to Bangladesh and I asked one ulama, my mukim or what, and he said, do you have a house here? Are you living in your own house? I said yes. He said, then you are not Musafir.
You're muqim, yeah? But do you have the intention to stay there? You have a house there. So many of us, I don't want to go live on camera and say anything, but many of the Bangladeshis living in UK, they have something there. Yeah?
And that time I wasn't living 15 days. That's why I asked him. He said,
So I don't know, I think I'm not sure why he said that, but to me that was an incorrect, he was wrong when he said that. And always I will say to you, I'm not saying I'm perfect as well, sometimes always get few other opinions. If you are in doubt. Only if you trust someone, that's fine. But that was the wrong answer that he gave. That's not correct. Because you do have a house there, but look, you're back here again. You're permanent. It's about permanent. Your permanent resident, is UK. This other one is temporary. You will be going back and forth there. Only way is that someone has, as an example I gave you, is like where people have dual nationality. Then that's different because where you have intention to live in both places. Sorry, I'll take the brother's question. Yes, I'll go to you. Yes.
The question is regarding Sunnah prayer. If you're Musafir, you still pray your Sunnah prayers or
So allowed is different. Obviously you're allowed. But if you are a Musafir, if you're traveling, the two things. One is called halatul istiqrar, one is called halatul safar, asfar. The two things. One is that you're traveling continuously. So for example, you're on the coach and the coach stopped for 20 minutes. You don't pray no Sunnah. So for example, you've reached your relative destination. You're going to stay in the house for 3. Now you pray the Sunnah Mu'akkada especially. The non-Mu'akkada you don't pray, like the Fajr 2 Sunnah, for example, the 4 rakat before Bahar, the 2 rakat after Maghrib, the 2 rakat, those ones you should pray. Okay? Even if you don't pray, you're not sinful because of the whole suffer journey thing. But this is what they say. They say, fi halatil asfar, when you're traveling, proper literal traveling, then you do not pray. But if it's istiqrar, you settle. For example, usually when we go Hajj and Umrah. So when we're traveling from our house to Heathrow Airport, any salah that we pray, we don't pray no Sunnah. At Heathrow Airport, we don't pray no Sunnah. In the plane, we don't pray no Sunnah. When we land, we don't pray no Sunnah. When you go to the hotel, we'll be at the hotel now for 1 week. Now you pray all the Sunnah because you stop. So if you're stationed, you pray the Sunnah. If you're traveling, then you don't pray. Does that make sense? That's how it is. Yes, sir.
So when you're traveling, when you're suffering, then all the 4 rakat salah becomes 2 rakat.
Absolutely.
So the question basically, if I was to divide it into 3 parts, if you're praying behind the imam, you pray what the imam.
Absolutely, yeah.
What happens if you are leading? If they make you leave? Say, for example, like Qadi Zaid, he's from Leicester, he's obviously 100% 48 miles away.
Yeah.
So
that's why he doesn't need Isha. Every time I want to push him for Isha, he goes, I'm not going to lead.
Is that the thing? So
that's why he doesn't lead Isha. But when he comes back, he's going to be here for all the way to the Eid, so I'm going to make him lead Isha. He won't hurry.
Can he basically lead for?
No, he shouldn't lead. He shouldn't. No, he shouldn't lead because this is the Sunnah. The Sunnah is this that you, when you're a Musafir, you pray, you lead your 2 rakat. So Shaykh, imagine any of the Makkah Madinah Imam were to visit us and we ask him to lead Salatul Isha, he'll pray 2 rakat. Rest of us will pray 4 rakat. Because he's a traveler. The traveler should always take the rukhsah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The Prophet ﷺ said, Sadaqatun. This is a sadaqah from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Faqbalu sadaqata. Accept the sadaqah of Allah. This is a gift from Allah. Don't go against it. Allah has told you that, oh Musafirin, pray 2 rakat. That's when you pray 2 rakat. So when you leave salah, you pray 2 rakat. And then after the salam, you say, I am a Musafir, please complete your salah. Atimmu salatakum fa inni Musafir. Sahaba, they left salah. So one Sahabi. So at the time of Sahaba, they're always traveling. So the local resident joined them. So when he finished his salah, he said, Atimmu salatakum. Everyone else, please complete your salah. فَإِنَّا قَوْمٌ سَفَرٌ. We are travelers. And they all got up and continued the salah. This happened in the time of the companions. So no, if they make you lead salah, but you tell them beforehand, I'm a Musafir, everyone. I'm going to pray my 2 rakat. You please finish your salah. And after your salah, you make the announcement again because some might be late comers. Okay?
And the third part was this happened to me. I don't know if I did the right thing. When I was away for a bit, 40 days, I basically joined the last rakat of Isha Salah. So they were already in the tashahhud position. And I just joined it. And so basically when that finished, obviously I didn't catch any rakat. So I got up and obviously prayed my 2 rakat after the salah and finished my salah. That salah.
No, you have to repeat the whole salah again. Why? Because you started with a local resident who prays 4 rakat. And you already started with him. Had you prayed alone and prayed 2 rakat, it's done. Because you started with him, your salah is 4 now. So you have to pray the 4 rakat. Okay? Yes.
Sheikh, can you clarify, you touched it before about Jamal being able to combine the salah.
Yeah.
What salahs can you combine?
Yeah.
In terms of
So for the travelers, the Prophet ﷺ combined Dhuhr and Asr, Maghrib and Isha. That's it. Now the ulama Hanafi scholars, they said that combining on all circumstances is not allowed. Because the Quran says, they look from the principal point of view. A lot of people, they don't understand. This is very important. They look from the Quranic point of view. Quran said, إِنَّ الصَّلَاةَ كَانَتْ عَلَى الْمُؤْمِنِينَ كِتَابًا مَوْقُوتًا. Every prayer has its fixed time. And Abdullah bin Mas'ud said that the Prophet ﷺ never combined 2 salah in one time, except when he was in Arafah and Muzdalifah. So the Hanafi, they take from Abdullah bin Mas'ud this opinion and the Quranic version, and they said there should be no combining whatsoever, even if you're traveling. So what about when the Prophet he did combine Dhuhr and Asr? They said what he did, he wasn't actually combining. It seemed that he was combining. He prayed Dhuhr towards the end portion of the time. And Asr, so as soon as he finishes Salatul Dhuhr, Asr entered. So he actually prayed Asr in Asr time and Dhuhr in Dhuhr time. It appears to you that he was combining. So that's the Hanafi opinion, by the way. The other 3 Imams, Imam Malik, Imam Shafi'i, Imam Ahmad, they say no. If you are a traveler, say you are traveling more than 40 miles, then you could pray Dhuhr and Asr in Dhuhr time. It's different. Or you could pray Dhuhr and Asr in Asr time. It's called Jam'u Taqdim or Jam'u Ta'khir, depending on your circumstances. So maybe like you're going to go into a plane now, and by the time you land in Maghrib time, so you pray Dhuhr and Asr right now, and then you go into the plane. Or you're going to land in Asr time over there, then you delay it, and you go to Jam'u Ta'khir over there. An example. So you could pray, combine Dhuhr and Asr in Dhuhr time, or Dhuhr and Asr in Asr time, and Maghrib and Isha, either in Maghrib time or Maghrib and Isha time. Again, this combining is for those who are traveling 48 miles, more than 48 miles, not anything less than that. Or someone is ill, severely ill at home. For them to do wudu every time, it's going to deteriorate the condition of the health. Combine as well. Or if it's so severely raining, I think this is gone now because our time, mashallah, nothing stops us from coming out of the house. So I'll leave that one. So those are the 2 things that the scholars have mentioned: illness and traveling. If someone is a Hanafi, he wants to take opinion of the other scholars, Malik, Shafi, etc., is allowed. There's not a problem in this kind of situation because obviously it will make life much more easier for the travelers. So yeah, Dhuhr and Asr, Maghrib and Isha, not any other salah. These are the salah that you can combine. Anyone else have any other? I have one more last question then I'll come to this one. This is the last question from the questioner. Question for the Imam. I prefer to read Surah Fatiha and Dua in my mind. Very difficult to answer this question.
Why he said to you? He said that he asked one of the scholars. So he when he read his further Sunnah Salah, so because he got distracted very quickly, so he closed his eyes and he read the Surah Fatiha or the Surah the Du'as, whenever the strong position on this. He read it in mind. He doesn't move his lips. So he asked one of the scholars. He said this is haram. You have to move your lips because if something comes in your mind, you do it and you won't get the reward for it. So you must move your lips. You must keep your eyes open when you're reading the Salah.
Okay, so 2 parts of the question. First of all, closing the eyes and reading Salah, ulama, they said it's disliked, it's not haram. There's no Quran or Hadith telling us anything. It's disliked. The reason why it's disliked because something could happen, like anything could happen. In our Kanha Masjid, children, they run around sometimes in front of you. So you get it. So it could happen like that. So you shouldn't close your eyes. That's the reason why. In the time of the companions and Tabi'in, etc., they could get a snake or something or a scorpion because they're always praying outside. That's why for this reason you should always have your eyes open. You shouldn't keep your eyes closed. But momentarily people used to close their eyes. This is natural. Sometimes you close your eyes for 5-10 seconds open. This is fine. So if someone were to close their eyes and pray the salah is done. But it's disliked. So it's not haram, it's disliked. You shouldn't do that. You should keep your eyes closed. Some people, they say for concentration, devotion, you could, if you do it, turn the light off. I can't hold here for Taraweeh. Everyone requests us, please can we have the lights off, it helps us to concentrate more. We turn it off, but we still have the side lights on because you can't have total dark. You can't do that. So you could basically reduce the power of the light or close the curtain or something like that. But you shouldn't keep your eyes closed. That's the advice that I would give. And regarding reading, that is true. There is no such thing as reading in mind. We keep our mouth shut and just read in our mind. That's not reading. That's just basically thoughts. That's reading. For that, we should move our lips. But we shouldn't read it so loud that we're disturbing our two. This is another problem as well. Some people, they recite the whole recitation. I could hear when I'm reading Salah, and it really bothers me. Because some of them are reading so much, and just don't laugh, and they're reading wrong as well. And I'm getting really bothered about it. So he's got the whole surah wrong, and it's so difficult. So this is not good. The Prophet of Allah, he disliked that. He turned around once. He said, "Mali unaza'u al-Quran." What's going on? Why are you debating with me? The Prophet said. Because because I'm reading, you're reading something else. I'm reading. So who is that? He said, "Don't do that. Illa bi Fatihatil Kitab." The only thing you're allowed to read behind the Imam, the Prophet ﷺ said, is Surah Al-Fatiha. This is again, it's also a matter of difference between among the scholars. So I would say to you, read, but move your lips in such a way that only you could hear it. And that's the definition, that's what's important is. That if you just keep your mouth closed and you're reading in your mind, that's not recitation. You have to move your lips so that you could hear it. But not so loud that your neighbor is hearing it. So we have to draw a balance between these. Okay? And that happens when you move your lips. I'm reading. I know what I'm doing. But if someone just keeps quiet and just think about it, that's not recitation. So that is not correct. So yeah, that is very important. Whoever the scholars have said that it is wrong, he's right, I agree. You cannot recite in your mind. You have to move the lips. Okay? That's what I would say. I'm not going to go to halal haram part. It's just that it is very important that we move our lips. Because if you say it's haram, that means they have to repeat all the salah of the years and the whole kind of rooms are open. So I will, yes.
Like when the Imam
This will be the last question, everyone, because I have to prepare for iftar. Yes, please.
When the Imam is reading Surah Fatiha loudly,
Yes.
when do you read it? Do you read it after him or
So when the Imam is reciting, there's no recitation. You just listen to the Imam. وَإِذَا قُرِئَ الْقُرْآنِ فَاسْتَمِعُوا. When the Quran is recited, our job is to listen. No recitation whatsoever. So you just listen to the Imam. If you are one of those that will follow the opinion that Surah Fatiha must be recited, then you read after the Imam has finished his recitation. Okay? Is that clear? Okay, inshallah. Everyone, thank you very much for all the beautiful questions that you sent me. And if I haven't answered anything correctly, Allah forgive me. I tried my best, inshallah ta'ala. Carry on sending the question, inshallah ta'ala.
Let everyone know that we have a WhatsApp group from the masjid, so you can join the WhatsApp group.
Okay.
Email Imam@canhole.org for any questions. So next week, Tuesday, you can able to
Yeah, so just for the sake of everyone else, inshallah ta'ala, you could email your questions imam@canhole.org. imam@canhole.org, or there is a WhatsApp group, and many of the brothers here, they have these details. You could just join this, inshallah ta'ala. Yeah, and basically everyone giving all the questions there, and you could also send the email as well privately to me, inshallah. And I'll answer all the questions next Tuesday. Jazakumullah khairan. Subhanallah bihamdi. Subhanallah bihamdi. Shukran la ilaha illa astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Tomorrow, inshallah, we'll have after Salat al-Asr, Riyadus Salihin hadith, inshallah. So Shafiq, one question was for you. Can women do i'tikaf in Kanwal Masjid?
No, it wasn't from me. Somebody else asked me.
No, I said as from the management, are we allowing women to do i'tikaf?
This is the question from the Imam to you.
Oh, okay.
Ah.
I never thought about it. It's difficult.
Shaykh needs
We don't have a space enough for the women. But inshallah,
Future, isn't it? Because we are basement.
Future, yes, inshallah.
Brother, you're going to cause so much trouble amongst the brothers, alright? You're going to cause so much trouble amongst the brothers.
So we have to have a discussion about this, about the women's situation.
Yeah.
I think because a lot of sisters, they found so much comfort praying in Salah here. So now because they get the